Hi everyone, Ali here from Pop-Up Painters in Ottawa, Canada. We're super excited because today we are going to teach you step by step how you can paint your very own beachy sunset. So for the painting today, you are going to need a canvas, 2 sponges, a small piece of chalk, a flat brush, and a round brush. A little basin of water. I really like to use these mushroom containers. I find they're very sturdy. And a paint palette. The colors that we're going to use for today are going to be yellow, orange, white, pink, and black. Let's get started. So for the very first step in creating the beachy sunset, we have to put on our background, and our background is always done directly onto the canvas. I use 2 sponges for this particular painting, and before you put your paint and apply your background, what you're going to do is you are going to dip your sponges into some water, just a little bit, and then you're going to squeeze them out so that there's no more dripping water. You just want your sponges to be slightly damp. So for the very first paint application, what we're gonna do is we're going to apply yellow directly to our canvas. And you're gonna go along with the horizon. So side to side, and you're just turning the entire background yellow. And then while the paint is wet, we want to create some details and shadows to give our painting some contrast. So once we have all that background done in yellow, what you're gonna do now is, using your sponge, you're going to apply your pink. So I'll put a little bit of pink and orange and white directly onto the palette, because those are the first colors we're going to use when creating our background. And starting with pink, you're going to dip a little bit of your sponge into the paint. And using the pink, we are going to put on some details into the background. So we're gonna have our ocean down below, and the sky is up at the top. So what you want to do with the pink is streak in some detail, just so it looks like our sky has that really nice sun-kissed look to it. And then you can have some coming in off this side. So right now I'm working on sort of the sky, and I'm really stretching that paint out as wide as I can. You don't want to apply too much, but you just want it to sort of fill in that yellow background as well, so it looks like it's got a really nice hue going down to it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bit into our ocean as well. So same application, but these are going to be shorter strokes. So you just want a little bit sort of in down where our ocean is going to be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of orange. So I'm using the same corner because I do want all those colors to blend in together, and just kind of going on top of some of those pinky areas, you're just streaking in some orange. So what this will do is it'll give your background some dimension to it. It's gonna look like you've got some of the skies really far in the background, as well as some really up close. And then we're gonna do the same in the ocean, just a little bit of orange, because the reflection would definitely follow through down below. Just like that. So we've got our background, our base background first section all finished, and now what we're going to do is add the highlight. So that's our white. So the reason I asked you to get 2 sponges is because you don't want to blend in all these colors. You want to have that white really, really, really visible. So using the clean sponge, if you don't have 2 sponges, by all means use the cleaner side of the sponge you just used, and just applying a little bit of white to the corner of your sponge. What you're going to do is you're going to bring in some highlights down in the center of your painting. So all these highlights are just going to soften it up. You can go directly over in and around the colors that you've already put on, and you just want to bring that white in throughout your sky just to soften it up. And this will sort of look like you've got that summer streak happening throughout the sky. So we'll bring some more of this white just sort of along all these harsher areas. And you do want to leave some of it thicker because we do want it to look like it's going to stand out a little bit. There we go, perfect. And really, really, really stretch that out as well. And then we're going to do the same in sort of the center down below. So this will make it look like you've got that choppy feel in the water and sort of in and around where the horizon will sit. So that's our very first base in creating our beachy sunset today. So all these backgrounds are going to look completely different, and that's going to be totally fine because our skies are never the same. Everybody's skies will look different because if we look out into the summer skies each night, they're never ever the same. So we've got sort of this real streaky feel. If you notice in areas that you've got quite thick paint, by all means, feel free to add a little bit of yellow on top of it if you want to smoothen that area out. So I just have this one right here that I think is a bit too dark, so I'm just going over it with a little bit of yellow. And then what that will do is it'll just sort of smoothen those areas out so it doesn't look as harsh. Perfect. I love that. Now what we're going to do is put our sponges in the water and wash them off. And then we're going to get our all of our details on. So we're doing a beachy sunset. So what this is going to look like is it's basically going to have this big vibrant sun that's going to be setting down. We're going to have some of the reflection in the water, and then what we want to do is bring up our silhouette, and that's what's going to pop. So the background, even though we're doing all of this work on our background, it's not going to be very visible because you'll have your very prominent silhouette sitting in front. So while we wait for that to dry, we're going to give it about 5 minutes. Okay, so we have let this sit for about 10 minutes, and what that has done is it has given all of the paint in the background to dry. Keep in mind that when we're doing this painting, the paint, even though it feels dry to the touch, it might not be fully cured to your canvas. That usually takes about 3 to 4 days. So just be careful when you're working on your painting. You don't want to rub off any of the background. Our next step in creating the beachy sunset is that we are going to use chalk to map out and draw on our image. So chalk and acrylic paint will not blend, which is fantastic. So in a few days, if you see any chalk lines on your painting, you can just dust them off very lightly with a damp cloth. The great thing with drawing out first all of your chalk is that if you make a mistake, you just redraw and you paint what you want to stay on the image. There's no need for trying to touch up paint mistakes or erasing a pencil. The chalk is fantastic. So what you're going to do first is we are going to start by drawing a horizon line going about 1/3 up. So we want to separate the water from the sky. And then you will do a circle on one side of your painting up in the sky. So the circle is your sun that's going to be setting down. You can make it bigger, you can keep it small, it's entirely up to you. And then you've got your white horizon line. What we are going to do is we are going to also sketch on where our fence posts will go. So we're going to have 1, and we want the fence posts to come above the horizon. So our image is making it look like we're standing looking out onto the beach. We're going to try to keep our fence posts even. So we've got a second one and a third one, fourth, and a fifth. There we go. So we've got our 5 fence posts. And then what we're going to do is we are going to now fill in the details. So the colors on your palette, so we have yellow, pink, orange, and white, and I'm going to add my black, which is going to be used for our silhouette. So again, it's yellow, pink, orange, white, and black. We are going to start by filling in our vibrant sun. So I am using my round brush, and what I have done first is dip it into water to prep it, and what you want to do is you want to roll that brush back to reshape your bristles. If you dry off that water by squishing your brush down like this, you're going to separate all those bristles. So you want to do a nice gentle roll, and then it'll give you that nice sharp point. Using white, and remember to just apply a little bit of paint at a time. If you scoop up a lot of paint, you're going to end up with clumps, and acrylic paint will dry however it looks on the canvas, and we want it to look smooth. You don't want bumpy paint. So what we're going to do is we are going to start by doing our outline of our sun first, and then you're going to paint it in. So this white will likely need a few coats, so that's why we're going to do it first. So we've got our nice crisp edges going around the sun, and then it's painted in. And remember to really smooth out those lines. Now what we have to do is put some reflection into our water. So directly underneath your sun, you are going to paint some reflection lines, just coming down into your water. So again, I'm just using white, and I'm putting in some lines reflecting into where it would fall underneath in the water. So your lines should be different sizes and have them staggered, and then what that's going to do is it's going to make it look like you've got some ripples happening in your water. You also want your lines to be thicker at one end, and they're going to point down as they get closer to the bottom of your canvas. Now what we are going to do is we are going to put on some of our details to separate the ocean or the water from the sky. So I'm going to use my flat brush for this. So this brush is fantastic because held up against the canvas, it's going to give me a very, very, very firm painting technique, and it'll really get those lines nice and crisp. So I've dipped it in my water, and again, I lay it flat to dry because I want to make those bristles really, 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 really tight. And what I'm going to do first is I am going to use a little bit of white, and I'm going to come right across the horizon just to create that distinction. So I'm just pulling that white right all the way across. And then with yellow, I'm going to mix it with my white and create a much softer yellow. And I'm going to go over that again. So I'm just pulling that sort of soft white just underneath the horizon. And then what that's going to do is it's going to make it really pop. So when you're doing this, you can keep in mind that to keep your lines nice and straight, as you can see, I'm going over and sort of cutting it first on one side, and then I'm smoothing the rest out. Just like this. Perfect. And now that makes it look like you've got that sort of distinct horizon line. So you've got your white and your yellow really, 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 really drawing there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in some more of those sunset colors into our water. So what that's going to look like is first we're going to start with a little bit of pink, and I'm going to put in some soft ripples in and around the water. So it's best to use, I like using this flat brush because those lines are really, really, really easy to keep straight. And you're going to put them all throughout your water. And don't worry about going over our fence posts once we get painting, and we can reshape them if we need to. So you're using your pink first, and you're just doing sporadic lines throughout the bottom. Just like this. And then we're going to switch off to our next color, which is going to be the orange. So basically what we're doing is we are bringing in all those colors into the bottom of our image. So with orange, you can go in and you can add, again, some more of those ripples throughout the water. So you want to make sure that you fill this up as much as you can. And what that's going to do is it's really going to give that sky, the water, a really, really, really nice feel to it, and it's going to look like it's got lots of movement in your picture. You don't want to focus it all on one area. You want it to kind of be thrown throughout the whole background. And you can go in and around here as well. So we've got our shadows and our highlights. And then what we're going to do is you can wash your brush now, lay it flat to dry, and we're going to pull in some yellow. So again, you're just putting in that extra detail and getting all those colors realigned into this bottom sunset. So anytime that you do sort of these, you can do like a sunset with a sailboat, you can do a sunset and an ocean with palm trees like we have. So head on over to popuppainters.ca and you can see a ton of our samples like this. And you'll see that in the water, we always bring in a lot of colors. It gives the picture such a distinction in it and a lot of dimension, and that's what you want when you're creating these. There we go. Perfect. So we've got that sort of feel in there. And now our final color is we want to add white. So what the white's going to do is it's going to make it look like you've got sort of some white caps and some movement in your water. So I'm going to go over some of my original white from the sun. So I'm just going to bring some of these because I want to make sure those are very sharp. So if you've lost some of those, you can go over them again. And then I want to definitely bring some more white in a few different areas. So pull it throughout, and then that just adds that highlight, which is sort of, you know, really necessary when you've got so much movement happening here. And then it'll really put a nice backdrop to the image that we are about to paint. And I'm going to go over my final horizon, not with a distinct line, but see how I'm sort of just doing a broken up line just to make sure that that horizon stands out. Perfect. So we've got our water, and we've got a lot of movement happening there, a lot of highlights and a lot of shadows, and that's exactly what we are going for. We really want this part to stand out. And then what we're going to do is work on our silhouettes. There we go. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is, using the flat brush, so I've cleaned it out and I've laid it flat to dry, I want to get my fence posts on. So all these are basically the width of my brush, and there's single lines there. I'm going to outline them as well to show you, just so we get that nice crisp edge. So whenever you're doing silhouettes, you want to make sure that your silhouette edges are very sharp. We do not want them to be see-through at all. You want it to look like the sun is really coming in behind. So again, it's about the thickness of my brush, maybe a little bit less. And these fence posts don't have to be perfectly straight, because they've kind of got that wood feel to them. And then you can just paint them in. So again, they're going to be so solid, and you want that sharp black image. No see-through black, no bumps. You want to try to get that nice and smooth. And notice how I did my background or my outline first. That's really important in silhouette pictures. Just spreading out all this paint, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. There we go. Perfect. So you're going to do that for all 5 of your posts. If you've decided to do more, that's fine. If you've decided to do less, that's okay as well. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish our 5 posts. So we're just finishing up the posts and adding in all of our black detail, and nice and thick, because you do want your fence posts to look like they are a silhouette. You don't want any sort of see-through paint. You want to make sure it's nice and thick in front of our beachy sunset. So now what we want to do is we are going to give that a second to dry, and we are going to do another coat on our sun. So you want to make sure that that sun is very, very, very crisp. So it might take 2 or 3 coats, but you do want to make sure that your painting is very, very, very dry in between coats, because we don't want to take off any of the white. Okay, so we've done our second coat on our sun, and we might have to do another one. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to add our barbed wire onto our fence post. So we're going to have 2 wires that are sort of going across, and they sort of appear to be broken, or they're kind of trailing off of the last one. So I'm going to use my flat brush. I really, really like it when you reshape it and pull it towards you, because it gets that really thin. You can see here how thin that base is, and that creates a very, very, very fine line. So for the wire that comes across, now you don't have to have a barbed wire. If you want to do a thick fence post and have wood going across, that's totally fine. I'm going to do some barbed wire, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it up really tall, and I am going to do some sort of jagged lines for the barbed wire. So it doesn't have to be straight, and it's just going to kind of fade off there on the side. So I just have it coming along there. And then we're gonna do, I said 2, I might maybe do 3. We have to see how it fits. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do 3. So I'm gonna do 1 here. So again, you're just stamping on that nice thin line, and it doesn't have to be straight. we want it to sort of look like it's a little bit kind of warped and aged. And just sort of have it coming off there. Maybe a little bit longer than the other one. And then I am gonna do a third one just down here. And you're just stamping that on. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the little barbs on that wire. And give it a little bit of detail. Okay, and this broken wire, maybe I'll extend those slightly as well. Okay, perfect. So now to get the little barbs, what we're gonna do is using our round brush, and you want to roll it to get that nice point and make sure all your water is dried. And then all we're gonna do for those little barbs is a little kind of a line. And it can vary. You can have some going this way, some going that way. And you don't want to have it too consistent looking, but we definitely want these little barbs to be on this painting. So just little lines kind of coming through like that. And we're going to do the same on this one. All right. Perfect. Now I'm trying my best to keep those lines looking different from the painting, the painted part above. I don't want them to be consistent. I want it very sporadic. So I'm making sure to put 2 in some areas and 1 or 2 in kind of different areas, just so that it looks like it's different. And I'm having them, some going this way, some going straight up, some going straight down, sideways. Again, just to make it look like it's sort of got that vintage, rustic kind of feel to it. Okay, perfect. So I've got my barbs on the fence post. Now, going back to our other brush, we are going to do a couple more fine details in this painting. So what we're going to do is we are going to add on our grasses. So to make it look like you're looking out onto the ocean from land, we have to close off the bottom. So right now we've done that partially on this side by carrying those fence posts all the way down. But now what we need to do is we really need to stretch that around. So we're gonna do that by doing some grasses. And these long, tall grasses come from the bottom and they come in and around our fence posts. So you can have some that are tall, you can have some that are short, but we want to frame off the bottom. So these grasses are going to carry all the way across your picture. And again, you can have some that are tall, even taller, like maybe like that, and have some that crisscross with each other, just again to give it sort of that kind of abandoned, sort of vintage feel. And you really want those grasses to frame these posts. So we're gonna work on that and get all those stretched all the way around, and you're gonna carry them all the way along the bottom of your painting. So let's see how that. Okay, so I have gone ahead and I've added in my grasses along the bottom. I've sort of added a little bit taller grasses on the one side just to create a little bit of a vignette to frame in our painting. Now, I don't know about you, but grasses are definitely not my favorite thing. I have some that are thick, some that are thin, some that are swervy, some that are straight. Anyway, so you know what, we got to keep in mind that nature is nature. Nothing is perfect. So if your grasses are a little bit all over the place like mine are, that's totally cool, because this is a painting, and it's nature is never is never perfect. So I think that the important thing is when you're wisping on these little grasses is that you definitely make it consistent. So if you've got some that are thick, some that are thin, that's awesome. So make sure that you pull that so it's the same throughout the entire bottom. So like I said, I definitely don't love doing grasses, but they always turn out amazing despite how I think that they are in the process. So we've got our fence and our barbed wire and these beautiful grasses. I want to do one more coat of white on our moon, or our sun, sorry, just to make sure again that it's very, very vibrant. So by all means, we are giving it that time to dry in between to make that white really, really pop. Fantastic. The last thing that we are going to add to this adorable beachy kind of sunset is that we're going to add some little bird friends just sitting and hanging out. So I'm going to put two. I'm going to put them on the first and the fourth. So I'm going to start with the body, which is going to be an angled oval, and you want to leave enough room for the legs to touch the fence post. Perfect. And I'm going to do another one here, but they're going to be facing each other. So I'm going to do the angle of the oval going the other way. And what we're going to do next for our bird is you're going to put a circle on the top of that oval. So we've got our circles just on the top. Now remember, these are silhouettes, so you do want them to be nice and crisp like we are doing all of our silhouettes here. So we've got our two little circles. This guy's gonna have a bigger head. There we go, perfect. Now we want to put in a little bit of a tail. So just coming off the back, you're gonna have sort of a tail, a couple little feathers, maybe flicking off that way. And then we'll do the same to this guy. And then the little legs that go underneath. Now I'm gonna do them with my straight brush because I like that this has that, it can really make those very, very straight. So I am going to have their legs, so they're going to have two legs, kind of a little bit on an angle because they're facing each other. And I'm going to do the same over here. 1 and 2. And then with this, I'm also going to put on the beak. So again, just making sure that you've got them so that they're facing each other. You got that cute little triangle beak. So those who have done our some of our other paintings, you know that some of our birds, the silhouettes are quite often painted like this. So it's the same as all the bird silhouettes that we do in our paintings like this. There we go. When you are all finished your painting, you are going to sign your initials at the bottom. And make sure to give your painting a name. Thanks so much for painting with me on Pop-Up Painters. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you never miss our step-by-step how to paint your own videos. And don't forget to leave us a comment below and give this video a big thumbs up. Stay healthy, stay safe, and keep up with those mindful art moments. Have a great day.